Hi all. Today let's ask the question from Job 28. But where shall wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? These times require wisdom. We need wisdom as we struggle to make sense of the global calamity. We need wisdom to cope with the challenges of social distancing. So let's think about the story of Job. In one day, he lost all his wealth. Worse, he lost his 10 children. His wife told him he was better off dead. Curse God and die. 3 of his friends came to comfort him, but they were so horrified by his situation. He was covered with boils from head to toe. His friends couldn't speak for a week. And they would have been better off staying silent. Because instead of providing comfort to Job, they only caused him more pain. And they tempted him to act dishonestly. So the writer of Job 28 asks the question, where shall wisdom be found? As he reflects on Job's debate with his friends. The writer declares that man is unable to make sense in this world. Job 28 is a poem that says wisdom is beyond human intelligence and ingenuity. Neither is wisdom a commodity you and I can purchase. All our efforts are inadequate to make sense of this world and all its happenings. We've made tremendous scientific and technological breakthroughs with our God-given intelligence, but we still lack wisdom. We don't have the skill of navigating life so as to foster human flourishing. That's why the show Big Bang Theory was so funny. The main characters are smart and well-educated, but foolish in so many ways. They didn't have the wisdom to live well. My undergrad was in chemistry, so the promise of science and technology to solve every problem appeals to me. But I do recognize that science, for all its power, can only explain how things happen. It cannot explain why things happen. Science might provide a cure for pandemics, and I hope it will. But science cannot calm our fear. Technology provides us with wonderful gadgets like the iPhone. But technology cannot teach us how to bless our friends using our phones. Job's friends had a simplistic cause and effect theology. They assumed Job was suffering, therefore God was punishing him for some sin that he had committed. So they kept telling him to repent. And that only caused Job more pain because he knew he had not done anything to deserve such suffering. Ironically, what Job and his friends did not know was that Job was suffering precisely because he was righteous. Satan had accused God of bribing Job to be righteous. So, to prove Satan wrong, God allowed him to test Job. And up to the very end, Job and his friends never knew that, even after God had spoken. God's response to Job was essentially, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Even if God were to explain, Job just wouldn't understand. God's ways are higher than our ways. And the writer exposes our inability to make sense of the world so that he may drive us back to God. He answers the question, where shall wisdom be found, in Job 28 verse 28. He says, God understands the way to it, and he knows its place. God is all wise, and he defines reality, and the glory of the creation demonstrates his wisdom. Better yet, God is happy to give us wisdom. So the poem ends, and God said to man, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to turn away from evil is understanding. So we realize that wisdom is gained from God through a personal relationship with him. The fear of the Lord isn't being afraid of God. The fear of the Lord is reverence that flows out of knowing him. I like how Sinclair Ferguson describes the fear of the Lord. He says, the fear of God in some ways defies our attempts at definition. because it is really another way of saying knowing God. It is a heartfelt love for him because of who he is and what he has done. A sense of being in his majestic presence. It is a thrilling awareness that we have this greatest of all privileges mingled with the realization that now the only thing that really matters is his opinion. To have the assurance of his smile is everything. To feel that he frowns on what we do is desolation. To fear God is to be sensitive to both his greatness and his graciousness. It is to know him and love him wholeheartedly and unreservedly. To fear God, to trust God, to love God, and to know God. These are really one and the same thing. And Job himself exemplified this fear of the Lord. When he lost his children and his wealth, he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." He could say this in the midst of his pain and turmoil because he humbly recognized that God did not owe him anything. When he lost his health and his wife told him to curse God, he said, "You speak as one of the foolish women speak. Shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil?" See, for Job, God is worthy of our allegiance simply because he is God, not because of what we get from God. And without even knowing it, Job was glorifying God by proving Satan wrong. And he did it because he trusted God. He trusted God to the point of saying, "Though he slay me, I will hope in him." In the face of his friend's accusations, he cast himself on God, knowing God would vindicate him. That is wisdom. Intelligent submission to God, even when we don't understand what he is doing, because we know his character. And Job even grows through his suffering. He tells God, "I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you." Job's sufferings brought him into deeper intimacy with God. It's a knowledge Job would probably not exchange for anything. But that does raise a question, doesn't it? Are we then mere pawns on the cosmic chessboard of an uncaring, unfeeling deity who is only concerned for his honor? Job himself would be horrified by such an accusation, because in the end, God demonstrated his love for Job by vindicating him and giving him far more than he had lost. But the ultimate rebuttal to such an accusation is in the cross of Jesus Christ. There, God definitively demonstrates his goodness and love. Jesus bore more suffering than we could ever imagine, enacting as our sacrifice and substitute. It is at the cross that we first learn true wisdom, for it is through the death and resurrection of Jesus that we enter into relationship with God through faith. And it is through the cross, as we assure ourselves of God's trustworthiness and love, that we grow in wisdom as we trust him in the midst of our present turmoil and distress. Tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll be worshiping God together by live stream. Till then, let us rejoice in his loving character revealed at the cross. That is true wisdom.